everybody, it's Steve Halkinavy. Welcome to the Circle of Brilliance. Today we're going to really jump into the subject of flow psychology and where this concept of flow lives on the change grid. We did talk a little bit about it on our last call, so that's kind of, I'm still putting that up as the first call in the flow series, but we're kind of just talking more about flow than doing the deep dive that I certainly like doing anytime we're looking at someone else's model. And so I started putting together some notes on the subject, and then I realized that if you just go to Wikipedia and type in flow psychology, you got plenty of core notes there to be working on. And ultimately, all I really care about is the diagram that's involved. So, but I thought we'll spend a little bit of time in these first few paragraphs right off of Wikipedia. And I think that right from there, we're going to be able to tell some differences between flow and the change grid itself. So here we go, we jump in. So in positive psychology, a flow state, also known colloquially as being in the zone, is the mental state in which a person performing some activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. In essence, flow is characterized by the complete absorption in what one does and a resulting transformation in one's sense of time. So let's just stop there for a second and say, well, if we look at the change grid, do you believe that there is certain places on the change grid where time distortion occurs? So where our perceived passing of time and the actual passing of time, which I think is called sidereal time, is different. So what do you think? How does our perception of time change as we might move around to different places on the change grid?
Maybe it's stable, most stable in the center.
Okay, most stable. So we'll say this is where real time, sidereal time, probably resides. And then what happens to speed, perceived speed, as we go up grid or down grid, and then out grid or in grid? So what do you guys think?
I think I was about to say, I think it slows, but I'm not so sure of that now. As I think about going out grid, perhaps it can accelerate, particularly when you start talking about the danger zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it accelerates out grid and perhaps even up grid.
Right. Now, to Tim's point, and I think we've all certainly heard this, if not experienced it, but as our perception of time speeds up as we move up grid, at a certain point, do you guys think that whole concept of their life passed before their eyes, or everything felt like it was happening in slow motion? You know, we've heard people being in car accidents, and that's their perception of it. But I don't think that that's going to happen progressively as we move up grid. It would seem to me that the perception of the passage of time, when we try to attach it to the level of tension, is going to fall in the category of an irregular trend. So remember, we said that there's a few irregular trends. One of them, by the way, is productivity. As tension goes up, what happens to someone's level of productivity?
Goes up.
It goes up as well. Will it continue to keep going higher and higher and higher up no matter how high tension gets?
Nope.
No.
Nope. At a certain point in time, when we hit that point of stress, then the level of productivity takes a nosedive. So we would call that an irregular trend. It maps to a certain time, to a certain degree, and then different stuff happens. So maybe our perception of the passage of time continues to get accelerated up to a certain point, and then the opposite happens. Now, as we move down grid, would you guys say that someone who's down in power apathy or apathy may feel as though the day is dragging on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So our perception of the passage of time has changed because our level of tension has changed as well. And I would believe that if I'm deep down in apathy, I may very well think that time has come to a total halt. So I think it is one of these trends that holds true pretty much as you map to tension until we get up to that danger zone. And then, by the way, I don't necessarily believe that everybody who's in the upgrade danger zone is going to suddenly feel time pass slowly. It might just be that that's one of the phenomena that occur when someone is in a highly stressed state. And Tim and Kathy, maybe you guys can give us some insights about the neurochemistry and that sort of aspect about what might make some people's perception of time slow down and somebody else's speed up, perhaps, or just stay flat. So, you guys have any thoughts about what's going on that makes our perception of time passage change?
Well, it becomes distorted, number one. And so when you're doing that, you know, the attentional faculties in the brain become overridden by the emotion of it. So when you're in any kind of like amygdala hijacking state, it turns off a lot of the reasoning capacities. And so that's why everything seems really distorted, because it's almost like you lose your ground underneath you. And your whole thinking process becomes quite unstable. So that's why we know most healthy decision making has a balance of emotion and cognitive.
Yeah, we know good decision making, you got to be more mid-grid, maybe a little bit out-grid, because obviously there's some sort of an issue you're trying to do something about. But yeah, you're right. It's not this far up-grid. Now, do you guys think that as we go further and further out-grid, our perception of the passage of time accelerates? What do you think? So the more driven you are, the faster life is happening?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Yeah, sounds true to me too, Kathy.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel kind of right, but my head went to this wondering, and the wondering is people that are very far out-grid may be the ones that are pushing time. So because they're in a big hurry, so they want everything else. They want to be satisfied. They want to be satisfied, now. Now it's starting to sound a little bit more power stress, a little more of a sense of urgency. But the clients I've had that tend to live in this out-grid driven driver, maybe in the out-grid danger zone, were always frustrated by how slowly everybody else was moving, and always felt like, you have to strike now. This is the time. You can't delay. You got to go. They would get frustrated if people wanted to talk about a plan and do any kind of preparations, kind of like, no, let's go. So I can kind of feel that part of that whole time warp that's occurring very far out-grid may very well be driven by the individual themselves. Thoughts about that?
I would think so. I think, like, when I look at the research in sports medicine from like high performing athletes, and they do push the time, but the ones who are able to sustain a level of momentum is grounded in something. So in other words, they're out there in their purpose, and they're not, even at that high state, they can manage their energy out there to where it doesn't become, the dark experience, rather, where they become overwhelmed by that. And because when that happens, then, I read like how the sound of the crowd, if they're in an opponent's arena, that can take them out of the game quite quickly.
Right. That's why you get the hometown advantage, or the home plate advantage. Yeah. All right, so let's go back to what they're saying here about flow. So flow is characterized by the complete absorption in what one does. I would say that as someone moves further and further out-grid, that probably holds true. You become more and more focused on the task at hand. So that would resonate. That's true. And a resulting transformation in one's sense of time. All right. I will agree that it's going to change. Your perception of the passage of time will change. Named by the psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi in 1975. Okay, remember that date, 1975. The concept has been widely referred to across a variety of fields and is particularly well recognized in occupational therapy. Though the concept has been claimed to have existed for thousands of years under other names. Now, I'm glad that statement was included in this, because certainly the set of conditions under which this person is going to end up in what they're calling flow have existed forever. So no one created those circumstances. Those circumstances have always, well, happened one way or another. Maybe someone could like deliberately manage them, but nevertheless, that's not new. You can't say anyone kind of developed this quality in human behavior. It really is just about when did someone decide to start labeling it. And you know, when we talk about the merging of brilliance, we don't go back any further than 1900, and in 1908 we had well, Yerkes and Dodson probably most notably talking about this exact same kind of, I don't want to call it phenomenon, but this exact same kind of cause and effect sort of relationship that he's referring to. So I think naming it flow is something but that belongs to Csikszentmihalyi, and fine, 1975 is fine for all that. But the concept that governs flow is something that's part of human nature, which means it's existed for as long as humans have existed.
Hey,
Talk
T,
about that? Yep.
I was just going to say, you know, when I think of flow, I think of artists and authors and musicians even who have incredible accomplishments over a short period of time or a defined period of time that you know is characterized like they were just in the flow.
Right.
You know, yeah, and for a long period of time, maybe it's the accomplishment that is the end result that they're looking for, and the more accomplishments, the shorter the period of time it seems.
Right. And I would certainly say to you that in everything that I've ever read about flow and how flow has been packaged and marketed over the years, it is very outcome oriented. And the thought is that if you want to help someone to produce outcomes more effectively, more whateverly, then you want to do your best to get them into this flow state and support them in remaining in that flow state, because flow equals productivity. That's the general thought behind it. Yeah. All right. So now I take issue with a little bit. And what I like about this is the third paragraph, where it says the flow state shares many characteristics with hyperfocus. However, hyperfocus is not always described in a positive light. Flow is always described in a positive light. So we want to look at the dark side there. Hyperfocus gives you the example of spending too much time playing video games or becoming pleasurably absorbed by one aspect of an assignment or task to the detriment of the overall assignment. In some cases, hyperfocus can capture a person, perhaps causing them to appear unfocused or to start several projects but complete few. Hyperfocus is often mentioned in the context of autism, schizophrenia, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, conditions that all have consequences on attentional abilities. So thoughts about that before we look to where that might occur? I think that kind of completes the picture. Flow is good up to a certain point, but beyond that point, that you can end up with the problems of hyperfocus. Now, they mentioned video games. So do you guys realize where a well-designed video game is intending to keep you on the change grid?
It's probably intended to keep you in hyperfocus.
In whatever hyperfocus it is. And how do you think a video game successfully does that?
With rewards.
With rewards, yep.
Yep. So you get to certain levels to, you know, so they gamify it. So you get to certain levels and reward yourself, and they keep recycling this dopamine hit.
That's correct. And so if you think about a well-designed game, and I do play some video games, I don't do first-person shooters because I don't really think it's, healthy to be thinking about shooting anybody. I don't really know that that's good. Anyway, but I don't mind it when garden vegetables decide to shoot and kill zombies. So how many of you have ever, I'm serious about that. I have no moral
The
issue.
killer carrot, huh?
Well, I'm telling you, it's the pea shooters you got to watch out for. So, but there's a game called Plants versus Zombies. And this game is probably the most addictive game I've ever stumbled across. And why it was addictive is because the concept is super simple. You have a house, and in your backyard, in the back, there's a fence. Beyond the fence, there is a variety of zombies. The zombies are trying to get over your fence, get across your garden and into your house so that they can do what? What do zombies want to do?
Eat you.
Eat your brains. And so this is what it's all trying to do. And the only thing you have to defend yourself is a variety of vegetables. And so how they do it is they start out giving you the weakest little zombie that you have to kill. You only have one weapon, and that's a pea shooter. And it just spits out a pea once in every few seconds, and there enough strikes kills the zombie. Well, the moment you successfully do that, which takes all of 60 seconds flat, oh, talk about the reward. You get bells and whistles and ta-da, and all that. You get that kind of verbal sort of feedback. And then they give you a little more difficult zombie. And they will give you another plant that's a little bit more powerful. So now you're building kind of your arsenal. Well, every time you finish another level, here it comes. We're going to give you a little more of a challenge, but we're going to give you a little more ability as well. And when you successfully manage that, we're going to give you a little bit more challenge and then a little bit more ability as well. So you can see they're trying to keep a constant balance in your perceptions of the challenge that you've been handed and your ability to actually manage that challenge. That being said, you have no guaranteed win. So it's keeping you in that test mode where you've got to actually pay attention to what's going on, choose wisely, and you'll prevail. If you don't prevail, you'll learn. And so when you lose that turn, you end up coming back to the exact same level attack, and the attack happens again. Well, by the end of it, you have swarms of zombies coming at you. I'm talking about hundreds of them that have got the ability to tunnel underground and come up behind you, and others that are floating in balloons overhead, and ones that are wearing armor, and on and on. And you end up with more and more weapons that, I'm talking about a whole arsenal of plants in your thing. And you are sitting there moving as frantically as you can to deploy all of these weapons in the right way to attack the right zombies. So it's actually something that's moving you further and further and further out grid. And so what they've just described as being one of the characteristics of hyper-focus, negative characteristic, is something that is part and parcel of the design of all good video games. So challenges got to go up, or people are going to find it easy, and they're going to end up falling by the wayside.
So T, would you say, Tim makes an interesting comment in the chat about the subjective nature of flow. Would you say that's subjective?
I would believe that not only is it subjective, because in flow, they will say that it's true to the person. So there's a lot of things that are subjective to the person. I believe it's true to the activity. So I may have, inside of just little old me, I could have dozens of different activities that put me into a flow state rather easily, and some that take a lot of work to stay in a flow state, and some that I don't really care to ever be in flow about it. I'm too far down grid or too far up grid. So I think it really is not only something that is specific to the individual. I believe it's specific to the activity that's happening as well.
When you were talking, it was very chilling to hear you describe that. I don't do video games; they're just too hard on my eyes. But it was very chilling to me to hear that, because all I could think of was the mass shooters.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Shooters and all of that, and the state of hyper focus that they must be in when they are doing that.
It's absolutely right. And to Brian's observation, what makes you want to go to the next level? Go ahead, just start the next level, It's that dopamine thing, because dopamine apparently is rather short-lived. So you get a little dose when you finish the level, but within a matter of seconds, you're like, okay, I'm ready for the next level because I want that dopamine again. I want that dopamine again.
Yeah, short-lived, and it you know, it's not value driven.
It's not value
So,
driven, right?
so
And
okay.
so it ends up being an addiction that is based on an internally produced drug.
So you know what, T, from a business standpoint, it sounds like if you want to encourage and sustain flow, there have to be more recognitions and more rewards
That's right.
in our leadership practices to accomplish that.
I think you're absolutely right. And in fact, if we go deeper into the description in Wikipedia, again, it is a good little article. It's a good, actually, it's a good long article. So, you know, do feel free to pull it up so you can peruse it at your leisure. But yeah, one of the things that says a little bit further down, blah, blah, blah. I mean, look at all that. Who knows how many that is? These are the components identifying the 6 factors as encompassing an experience of flow. So intense and focused concentration on the present moment. That feels very obvious, right? No issues with that.
No.
A merging of action and awareness. Okay, so the test is happening. This is interesting. A loss of reflective self-consciousness. So Kathy, I'd be very curious to hear what you.
No, that makes perfect sense. It's that instead of being in the center where you have the ability to sort of be objective, you know, to step outside of yourself and detach, this is a complete loss of that. You are so into this experience that you can't even stop and reflect on who you are and what you're doing.
Right. And so
it's the
that
exact
means
opposite of being in the center.
In fact, you can't learn from it even if you are. So I think that's really important for you to be in that state.
Yeah, so let me give you guys an example of this one that I think is even more chilling than Plants vs. Zombies. By the way, there's also Plants vs. Zombies 2. Terrible game. They forget everything they learned in the first one. So, but Plants vs. Zombies 1 is great. It just is. I'm telling you, if you start playing it, you will get addicted to it, and you can finish the whole game in, you know, over a weekend. It's not like there's a never-ending set of levels. Sooner or later, you're going to get a corncob cannon, and that's the equivalent of a nuclear bomb. And so that kind of takes care of the whole game. But anyway, there is another great story I have, at least I think it's great, that illustrates this point. And you guys know I'm a fan of all things sci-fi. There was an episode in Star Trek: The Next Generation where one of the crew members ends up acquiring a video game. This video game is actually contained in a set of glasses that you're wearing. And as you are watching this 3D world in front of you, your goal is to get this little disc to go down this little cone. And if you can get this little disc just by the power of your concentration and, you know, all the stuff we've talked about for gamification, if you can get that little disc to go into the down the cone, you get not just a little dopamine, you get a tingling top of the head, the bottom of the feet. What I want to say, Reward for sure, but it is this where you can watch the change on someone's face. It's almost like there's something that's truly narcotic has just happened. There's a bliss that comes at you. And so people on the ship start replicating that game, and everyone is playing that game. And at a certain point in time, you start seeing crew members slumped on the floor with their goggles on, playing an endless cycle of this game, hours after hours, not eating, not anything at all. And then you realize that pretty much everyone on the entire ship is now under the spell of this particular game. And again, the reward that you're receiving every time you finish a level. And when it gets to a certain point, well, this whole other group of people who are the ones who created the goggles board the ship and take it over. If it hadn't been for Lieutenant Commander Data, who is an android, so he doesn't have any susceptibility to it, he was the one who recognized everyone is under the spell of heroin, and people are now overcoming the ship and doing all that sort of stuff. And so this idea about reflective, a loss of reflective self-consciousness, I think that episode of Star Trek kind of exemplifies that. There comes a point in time where not only aren't you reflecting, but you are no longer able to reflect on whatever's going on, really going on in your life. Now, hopefully that's like, yep, go ahead, Kathy.
I'm so sorry, T, to interrupt. I mean, it just, the thing that's just shouting in my brain is, I mean, this is exactly what I see happening to our world with our gadgets.
Oh, yeah.
And this is exactly where we are all going if we don't learn how to step back and do that reflective self-consciousness. Because you can see it, people just being led to do all kinds of things. There's a dopamine hit around the corner, and a lot of it has to do with their gadgets, with their technology.
That's right. And you know, Kathy, to your point, you said that someone is leading them. What concerns me the most is not so much the fact that these people are now addicted to whatever, or that are that far out grid. It's who's the one who moved them there, and what was their motivation doing it? Obviously, the Star Trek example is that someone wants to take over a giant ship. So what's the real motivation? And at a certain point in time, do the people have an awakening? And in that awakening, do they realize that they've been manipulated? You know, so to me, it's a really interesting sort of one of the four aspects of shame shifting.
Yeah. No, I think this is a very real issue for our society. Very real issue. I mean, just as an offshoot, I won't talk long about it, but I remember a few years ago there was a company that approached a group that I was working with, a firm that I was working with as a consultant, a gamification firm, very interested in getting a contract with us on cross-cultural work, but it was all about very obviously, very consciously talking about the whole dopamine thing, you know, the rewards that people would have for participating in their approach to assessment, into motivation, and to rewards and productivity. And we all looked at that and said, this stuff is really scary and we don't want any part of it.
Yeah, it is very scary. It's very scary. Because isn't it interesting? What's more brilliant than someone who wants to manipulate you with drugs when they find out that all the drugs that you really need are already inside of your body?
That's exactly what's happening with our technology right now.
Right. So to me, there is an issue. Nevertheless, getting this back to flow, I would say that in the broad definition of flow, as we looked at, that flow exists in the outgrid danger zone. Now, we've been adding a kind of a level of morality to the whole thing, or something about is this fair and just? Is this manipulative? All this kind of thing. That's a totally different discussion than are you in flow? So yeah, people in the outgrid danger zone are most definitely in a flow state. Unfortunately, they are in, as I characterized last time, whenever I hear flow, I think of water in motion. And when you are in the outgrid danger zone, now you're looking at tsunami intensity water movement. So the destruction is kind of built into that whole set of possibilities.
Excuse me, T, I would agree with that. And actually, it's got me now thinking and asking the question of what's the downside of flow? Because it seems to me that flow is concentrating primarily on the activity.
Yes.
And the quote that I dropped in the chat actually came from the PDF that Brian shared with us last week. And I've been reading through that. And it seems like it ignores everything around the person outside of the activity itself. And so for me, that translates into damaged working relationships And anything, well, and I'm focusing primarily on the relationships, but if the focus and concentration is so much on all of my energy into the activity and being successful with the activity, how might that cause me to damage those relationships?
Yep. And I've seen that in those reports. And the reports, the sports medicine research, they call flow creative expression. And when that creative expression isn't shaped by an understanding of what value is created, not just in the end, but in the process, then it becomes like this dark experience where, you know, they talk about the shift from team to now it's just you. And, you know, it's just you doing everything, and you no longer rely or, you know, work with your team as well as you used to. And we see that in professional athletes when they become disenchanted with, you know, the activities that they're doing, and it starts to infiltrate into other areas of their life. And so now, you know, they go from superstardom to like, you know, a zero in no time. And it starts to infiltrate. It's a slow attack, basically, too, because they're not even conscious that those things are going on.
Yep. Well, in fact, let's take a look at these other components and see which one of them resonates with what you've just said. So we last looked at a loss of reflective self-consciousness. Another component is a sense of personal control or agency over the situation or activity. So I get that. And we know where someone's feeling of being in control is most true. So that all matches. Then the next one, a distortion of temporal experience as one's subjective experience of time is altered. We talked about that. Experience of the activity as intrinsically rewarding, also referred to as an autotelic experience. So is that what you're talking about, Brian?
Yes. Yeah. So that makes the difference, because remember, dopamine tends to be outward facing, right? Yeah. So it's all about just what happens. And so if it's not shaped by some kind of intrinsic motivation, then you can get warped into the dark side quite quickly.
Yep.
Where you're just doing the activity and you're not getting anything from it, nor are you connected